Have you ever noted that difficult people, the chaos magnets, the passive aggressive emailers, the family members who weaponize guilt, right? They don't just ruin your afternoon. They collect a tax. They level a psychological tariff on your energy, your time, and your inner peace. And they do it with a smile, a sigh, or the magical phrase, I was just joking. Why are you so sensitive? They are emotional squatters in your brain apartment. And today, we are giving you the eviction notice, my guys. Come on now. This episode isn't about being louder. It's not about being meaner. It's not about being the alpha in the room, right? It's about becoming psychologically impenetrable. My dudes, get it, man. By the end of this conversation, I'm going to give you the heavy, research-based script for winning every argument. And by winning, right? By winning, I mean you will walk away with your dignity intact, your boundary enforced, and their confusion at an all-time high. Yeah, baby. We're diving deep into the science of their games, from push-pull tactics to stonewalling and the subtle art of the loaded question. We're going to provide practical strategies to deal with them at the behavioral, at the cognitive, and at the emotional level. So you stop reacting and start regulating. Look, we're going to use some really powerful concepts, something called ethical masculinity and the ACR blueprint to make you utterly resilient to their nonsense. Welcome back to Planting Thoughts. My name's Mike, and let's start figuring out why some people act like broken vending machines that only accept drama coins. Come on, man. This ain't Chuck E. Cheese for going crazy out here. We ain't into chaos, my dudes. I mean, sometimes we are. All right. The anatomy of a difficult person, right? The research base, if you will. Let's be funny, right? But let's be scientific, because Planting Thoughts is all about grounded research, peer-reviewed studies, my dudes. Come on. Now, who are these people? Right? Who are these people? They're not villains, right? They're not villains. They're just deeply unregulated individuals operating on a highly predictable, flawed psychological loop. They are emotional vultures of the human ecosystem, if you will. And here's what makes them tick. And this is backed by behavioral science. Intermittent reinforcement. Look, I talk about this all the time, right? This is the slot machine effect. They are negative 90% of the time, but the 10% when they're charming or complimentary, right? This is what keeps you hooked, guys. Waiting for the next win, right? This system, as shown in conditioning studies, is harder to break than consistent negativity. Look, they don't want to win the argument, right? This is more of a need for a narcissistic supply. They want to control the emotional state, right? They want to control the emotional state of the room. Whether you react with outrage, validation, or confusion, they get supply. It's like oxygen for these freaks. Your emotional reaction is the fuel for their self-worth. I mean, they are going for a reaction. And what you need to do is make sure you keep yourself grounded. They can't hold the truth. They can't hold the truth that they might be wrong or difficult. So they project that feeling onto you. It's easier to believe things like you're too sensitive than I'm behaving badly. I mean, come on now. I'm perfect. Guys, this is the defense mechanism. It protects their fragile little ego. The truth is, their behavior is a test. Their behavior is a test, and they are subconsciously looking for the boundary they can kick down. They are looking for it, and they will test and test and test until they find it. That's why you got to get rid of these types of people, right? Or get them in therapy. You definitely don't want a relationship like a romantic relationship with these dorks. Look, when they find that little thing that gets to you, they're going to set up shop. The You win by becoming a house that has no easy entry points, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, right? How to do that. Don't give them any doors to open. Now, before I build this fortress for you guys, right? Before you little succulents get the actual plan to make yourself sort of airtight against these nerds, we need to understand the wiring. Why does their passive aggression, right? Why does their passive aggression send you from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds? I mean, let's be honest. Difficult people don't engage your logic centers. What do they engage? They engage your threat system. They are literally a threat to your system, right? And you're picking up on those cues. Look, when a difficult person starts to test you, right, your amygdala, something that we talk about all the time. It's that small little almond shaped part of the brain that screams danger. It's your alarm system. It's the Twitter troll of your brain, if you will. Now, the amygdala's job is to trigger things like fight, right, flight, or freeze. It kind of gives your sympathetic nervous system the okay to get going, right? It picks up on, a threat, right, something in the atmosphere, and then it says, get ready to roll, my dudes. It bypasses logic, and this is why you either shut down, lash out, or start frantically trying to fix them. They've got you hooked. They've got your brain wired the way they want it. And when the amygdala fires, it literally takes resources away from your prefrontal cortex, your PFC, right? And guys, like I used to teach in my courses, right? The PFC is the CEO of your brain. It handles planning, rationality, emotional regulation, all the stuff that you need to actually shut their garbage down. Your amygdala, right? They have used your amygdala against you to shut down the reasoning part of your brain. Look, the goal of winning, right? What do we want? We want the primary goal to be re-engaging your PFC and keeping your amygdala on mute. The difficult person, they need you to operate from your fear. We win by operating from our regulation, our logic, our calm detachment from the outcomes. So every strategy that follows, everything I'm going to give you here in a couple seconds, is simply a way to interrupt the amygdala's panic signal and place the CEO, your PFC baby, firmly back in charge of the conversation. Because that's what we do here on Planting Thoughts. We give you the practical strategies so you can live a better life and stop dealing with these emotional abusers, these insecure little turds, right? We're going hard here. All right. Look, over on Plant the Spark, my dating and relationship advice channel, right? My coaching channel, I came up with a concept called ethical masculinity. And this is a defense system, right? Now, it's designed for your dating and attraction life, but it's really designed, and that's what I use it for over there. It's really designed to give you sort of some inner strength. So let's talk about that shield, right? This is where ethical masculinity, it shines, right? It is a concept of regulated, grounded strength that basically makes you immune to the testing and the games that people play because it forces you to prioritize self-respect and clarity in all your interactions. It is the foundation of your being. Now, this mindset is built on 3 pillars that act as a defense system against the amygdala hijack, right? I mean, this stuff is scientifically based, and I wouldn't bring you anything that wasn't. This is grounded in real science. Now, number 1 is emotional regulation, right? This is your anchor. The difficult person is trying to pull your emotional state into theirs. Now, your job is to be the anchor. You maintain a neutral, low energy response, refusing to match their chaos, right? Now, this principle states, I control my reaction. I control my reaction. Therefore, I control the outcome, baby. Have some clarity of intent, right? This is your laser, right? The difficult person thrives on confusion. They want to get your brain going in 16 different directions, 6, 7 different directions, right? Look, when they engage, and then when you engage back, you must know the single non negotiable point you are defending. Don't chase their changing topics. Don't let them confuse you, right? This principle states I define the frame of the conversation, not you, not you. Have some self respect over comfort, right? I mean, self respect over comfort. This is your boundary system at work. And this is really hard. This is the hardest one for most people to actually accomplish because it means choosing the awkwardness of enforcing a boundary over the comfort of keeping the peace. It's rough, man. It is tough to do. You don't want to let people down. I mean, we're wired, right, for social interaction. So, like, being sort of just agreeable is comes pretty naturally for a lot of people. Not these people, right? But this principle is a direct signal to your PFC, your prefrontal cortex, that you are safe and in control, thus preventing the panic response. Come on now. When you operate from these pillars, the difficult person realizes their usual tricks doesn't work. The vending machine is broken, right? And it's not giving them their drama coin back. So, what is the ACR blueprint for argument mastery, right? To execute these principles under fire, we're going to use this simple structure, right? And I call it the ACR blueprint. It keeps your PFC active, fact-based, and moving toward resolution or exit. Get the hell out of there, baby. Get the hell out of there. The blueprint follows basically in 3 stages, or it flows, I guess, in 3 stages. All right. Number 1, you want to assume the best, check the facts. Assume the best, check the facts. Stop guessing. Immediately clarify their intent to check the facts before responding to the emotion. This is a cognitive stopgap. So, an example of something like you can say, here's a script that you can actually use, right? When they say something passive aggressive, you don't fight back. You calmly ask one little question. I'm hearing a lot of frustration in your tone. What specifically are you trying to communicate right now? This ruins them, right? This ruins them. It forces them to own the aggressive part of their passivity, right? And they do not like that. They don't like it. They don't like it. I love this one. Number 2, you can clarify the boundary, right? And the consequence. This is where you state your non-negotiable, right? Your non-negotiable rule. And then what happens next? This must be concise and free of emotion. So, another script example might be something like, look, I hear you're really upset about my decision, but my boundary is that I will not discuss this issue with you while you are yelling. The consequence is that I am leaving the room for 10 minutes. I'll come back when you're ready to operate with my boundary. And then you've got the response or the exit, right? Once the boundary is stated, you execute it. You do not argue about your boundaries. You either provide a neutral response or you leave. Now, the win is if they pull you back in, you repeat the boundary and exit. Like, that's it. You win. You win by preserving your time and your self-respect. You are denying them further supply. The ACR is your psychological helmet. It turns their chaos into a predictable sequence, allowing your rational brain, the PFC, to stay in charge, right? You're destroying their BS games. Let's get into the fireworks. Here are the counter tactics for the 3 most common games that difficult people play. Complete with the dry, assertive scripts you need. Game number 1, the stonewall. Silence is punishment, right? The tactic is they shut down, they refuse to speak, right? They leave the room mid-conversation to trigger your anxiety and force you to come running after them. That's what they really want, right? They want you to chase. They win when you apologize just to get them to talk. I mean, they win the moment you reach out. So what do? What's the counter to this garbage? Use ACR. State the facts, state your boundary, then walk away. But not toward them, baby. Not toward them. A practical script you could use might be something like, I see you're shutting down right now. I assume you need some space, right? I want to be clear that I'm willing to talk about this issue at 5 p.m., but I won't chase silence. I am stepping out for a walk. And then what you do is you take off, right? You go, you win. You were clear, you set the boundary, and then you exited. Later, stonewalling. Another tactic these dorks use is the push-pull, right? And they test by basically testing your instability. It's the instability trap. They push you away. I need space. You're smothering me. A lot of avoidant attachment style types do that. You pull back, then they pull you back in, right? I miss you. I was wrong. And what they're doing here is they're trying to ensure that you are insecure and compliant. You're looking for that little dopamine hit, right? Look, when people try the push-pull stuff, the hot-cold game, if you will, right, you've got to demand stability, and you've got to focus on the facts, refusing to meet their emotional extremes. No emotional extremes here. You want to keep clarity. You want to keep grounded. A practical script you can use is, I appreciate you checking in. I noticed you've changed your position significantly since yesterday. I need clarity. Can we agree on X course of action for the next 48 hours? This forces them off the emotional roller coaster and onto factual ground. You're training these little puppies to do what you want. Come on now. And you're using it ethically. Ethical masculinity. And this isn't just for the dudes. Ladies, you can ground yourself in this stuff too. It makes you powerful. Come on now. You know that. All right. Game 3. The gaslighting, right? Character assassination, this type of stuff. They rewrite history or attack your personality. You're dramatic. That never happened. To make you doubt your perception of reality. And so what's the counter to this garbage? Anchor to your own truth and ask for accountability without defending yourself. That's it. Simple. Something you might say as a practical script to these guys. I don't accept that characterization of my behavior, but I hear your perspective. However, my memory of that event is, X. Let's focus on the desired outcome instead of debating the past. That's beautiful. That's beautiful because you are bringing them back into the present, right? You are making them deal with reality in the present instead of this fictitious past that they have recreated. The most important part of winning, right, is realizing that the difficult person is fighting a war that you're not participating in. That's it. We must win the war within ourselves first. That's why ethical masculinity is so powerful. Look, the ancient philosophers, the Stoics, right? They gave us the perfect psychological defense against difficult people. And this is known as the dichotomy of control. And so what you control is your judgment, your response, your effort, your boundaries, right? The things that you don't control, the difficult person's opinion, their reaction, their choice to be rude, their need for drama. You have nothing to do with those things, right? That is on them. If that's how they want to live their life, you can let them live their life. If you want to keep them in your life because it's kind of entertaining sometimes, fine. But look, you don't control them and they don't control you unless you let them. The moment you seek to control their reaction or even try to convince them that you are right, you have lost. You don't need to convince anyone you're right, ever. I mean, you handed them the control over your emotional state, which is the only thing the Stoics warned us against, right? Use detachment. You need to cognitive reframe. Stop taking their behavior personally. They're not acting for you. They're acting from their own pain and their own problems and insecurities. Most likely. I mean, some of them are just bad people, probably, right? But not most of them. Most of them are just insecure, scared, avoiding little dorks. And it's okay. We need to help these people. View their chaos like weather, right? It is happening, but you don't need to stand outside with an umbrella, right? You don't need to stand outside at all. You definitely don't need to stand outside without that umbrella. And that's the thing they want you to do. You need to observe without absorbing, right? You need to flip the script, if you will. Here's something actually this is a good one. Look, it's called the script flip, right? You let them win with the last word. All right. Ego demands we have the last word, right? True strength, ethical masculinity, baby. It allows you to end the exchange by simply walking away after the boundary is stated. They might yell their final dramatic word. You let them have it. You win the war because you retain your peace. The only thing that truly belongs to you in life, right? Your peace, right? Let them scream into the void. Let them have their fun. You're having yours right up here, right in here, because you are ethically masculine. You have used the practical strategies from my manuals, and you have become resilient. You are winning not when they change, but when you stop letting their lack of regulation dictate yours. Now, here's one last thing I'm going to give to you guys, all right? One more practical set of practices, right, that you can embed to really to strengthen your own resilience in your life. So this is something I call somatic anchoring. It's really just getting your PFC activated, your prefrontal cortex. So when you feel the panic rising, I want you to interrupt the amygdala. All right, touch something cold, press your feet firmly into the floor, or perform the physiological sigh. 2 sharp inhales, 1 long exhale. All right. What this does is it forces your body to signal safety to your brain through the vagus nerve. Okay. The vagus pathway. I want you to do the resilience check. Do the resilience check. Every interaction with a difficult person is a test of your personal growth. These guys are helping you grow. It's like playing that really difficult team that you just hate, right? But you know after playing them, you're better. Now look, did you regulate? Did you hold the boundary? Did you use the script? Look, if the answer is yes, you're a winner, regardless of how angry they were when you left the room. That's it. Do a relationship safety check. Before engaging, check in with your prefrontal cortex. Ask yourself, do I feel safe? Is their behavior predictable? Do I shrink myself to avoid conflict? If the answer to any of these is no, the highest form of self-respect is a swift, polite exit. Get the hell out of there, baby. But on a more serious note, right? Look, before we wrap, if trauma is happening right now, right? If you are in fear, if you feel overwhelmed or in crisis, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, you can call it all the time, 24/7, 988. 988. There's also the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. Look, these services are free. They're confidential. You're not being dramatic. You're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing if you have to call these people. You're not alone. And here at Planting Thoughts, we are here to support you. All right? Use these things if you're unsafe or even feeling unsafe. Take a deep breath, right? We went through the amygdala hijack, the psychology of emotional vultures, right? The immovable strength of ethical masculinity, and the stoic fortress of the dichotomy of control. Remember, the ultimate win is your inner strength and sovereignty. It is the ability to choose peace over participation. You are not required to pay the chaos tax anymore. So here's your assignment, little homework for you succulents. I want you to do a reflection prompt, all right? Identify one difficult person in your life who charges you the highest emotional tax. I've got one in mind right now. What is the simplest boundary you can enforce this week? A time boundary, a topic boundary, a physical boundary, whatever you might want to do. Don't argue about it, just state it, execute it, right? Execute the R in the ACR. And that's it. That's it. If this episode gave you the psychological script you needed, please consider subscribing, like the video, turn on that bell, baby, and share this with someone who is currently paying the emotional tax and needs an eviction notice.